2019. Now call to order. I'm Mary Brown, chairperson for the Council Finance Committee. There are several ordinances on the agenda tonight. CPO 2019-65. Does everybody have an agenda? Then I won't have to read these. CPO 2019-67, CPO 2019-68, 69, 71, and 72. So we'll start, as far as I know, we'll take them in order. 65, the ordinance establishing a community benefits agreement. Councilwoman White, you doing the overview for that?
I will. That was deferred from the last council meeting. The mayor asked that it be deferred. There were a couple of changes that needed to be made to it. Direct your attention to the enforcement clause, which is in the section 6. It's on this page number, the second to last page. There was a change in the wording to say that if a developer failed to comply, it's subsection 3. Section 6, subsection 3. It says failure to comply shall result in denial, suspension, termination. It had said may, so that is changed to shall. Back in the beginning, on the definitions, there was an addition. There was a clerical error that the definitions for the compliance officer were not included, so that is included, and also the PAC, which is the People's Advisory Council.
Okay.
So those two additions were made. Outside of that, the substance of the ordinance remains that it would be a benefit whenever a benefit is obtained by a developer in the city, that there would be a corresponding direct benefit to the community with a 50% amount of the city benefit that the developer receives to go to this community benefits agreement. And if you would like more information, we do have representatives from the Community Benefits Committee here who can expound on it more.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
if I could just
Sure.
speak to it a bit. I did ask that it be deferred last week because I wanted to make sure that the changes were clear, that they were in there, because we do believe that the ability to hold people accountable is important. We also know that it is important to have a detailed process for those who will come under the community benefits agreement. And I also believe that it's important to give both the council and the administration a safety valve should they believe that something that may meet the letter of the community benefits agreement, but you would not necessarily want that project to go under. And an example for me would be Village of Hope, which would come under this agreement under those terms, but the margins are so tight because of the fact that it is a subsidized housing project. Then that would have been something that you would not necessarily want to come under the community benefits.
And may I ask where that is in this? I didn't see that language.
Okay, it should be in there. So if it is not, I will, I'll take a
At the
look.
end.
It's
at the very end.
Yeah, I was pretty sure it was in there.
It was added at the very end. That if it's not in the interest of the city, that they, yes. terminate.
Oh, I see, it's number 6 under section 6.
Yeah.
And it says the common council and the executive of the city shall have the authority to terminate any CBA if it either deems the agreement not to be in the best interest of the city. Either.
And it shouldn't be terminated, the CBA. It would be that there would not be a CBA, because that evaluation is made early on. So we should change that language, and we will do it for the process. So it shouldn't be.
I'm sorry.
Well, that says terminate.
Uh-huh.
It shouldn't be terminate. It should be not enter into the CBA.
Okay.
So it shall have the discretion to not enter into a CBA if it deems that the agreement is not in the best interest.
But that would have to be a joint determination. So it's not just a.
Yeah.
No, this says shall each have the authority.
Maybe it shall jointly have the authority.
Shall jointly have the authority, yes.
And I don't know how we define best interest of the city because, I mean, that's what the ordinance.
Well, I think that the safety net for that is the fact that you have to have 6 people who make that determination.
Of what's in the best interest.
Right.
Any more questions from council people? Comments from council people? No? From the public? No. Okay. Yes.
Yes, you know, I understand what the mayor is saying about this. It's, you know, obvious that, you know, every project is not meritorious. You know, some projects, you know, shouldn't be under the purview of the CBA, because if that would happen, then the 15% might undermine the financial sustainability of the project. The thing that I object to is that the people don't have a voice here. This is the council and the executive, and the whole point of the CBA is that it adds another seat at the table, which is the people. So, in other words, if the administration and the council want to favor the developer for some reason, let's just say that would happen, then, you know, they could get that. And there is no counterbalance to that, and that is the whole problem that we've had in this city around not having any leverage for the people. That developers and businesses get what they want, they get public subsidies, and then they forget about local hiring, they forget about community benefits, because they're not even asked, because there's nothing that allows for that to happen. So I had a problem with this language when I saw it last week. And, you know, I think that in order for it to be fair, that it should also include the committee members, 1 or 2 members of the committee for a Gary CBA. Because if not, then there is no voice of the people. And you could argue that the council is the voice of the people. However, you know, what's happened in the past is that the council has made these decisions, and so is the executive, you know, the administration. And we have ended up with giving out a lot of our public money and assets and not getting anything in return. So I would suggest that if we're going to, if tonight we're amending this language, that it also include a representative from the community, the Gary Committee for Community Benefits Agreement.
Now, we should, I think one way to address what Ms. McCready is saying is to make sure that any mediation is done in a public process, which would allow for public comment, which would allow for the weigh-in
Okay.
of the community benefits organization.
And Madam Chair, and I want to, right along those standpoints there, the council does represent the public at the same time, and it will have to come before the public for a vote, because no way you can get around to get a majority of the council without taking it before a vote inside the public and having public voting at the same time. So that I will leave it at that because, yeah. Because I think we'll follow the executive first, because they will probably see more projects than we will, starting
Oh,
off.
absolutely.
And they will make the determination according to us that they should terminate, such as the CPA. And they will have to present that case to us to try and win the votes to support them on that. Which will be done in the public at the same time.
I understand
Where
that.
there can be comments at that time from members of the CPA committee.
We can make comments, but does it have any force?
Oh, absolutely, you got us here.
I know, but I'm just saying that
Of course.
because the whole idea was to have a seat at the table. This excludes us at the table. This puts us in the audience. I don't understand the reason for the exclusion. That's, you know, if we're all on the same page and we all want the same thing, then I think that, and we're all rational people, I think that we should also have a seat at this table and not be in the audience.
Did you have any comments, Attorney Williams?
Only, Madam Chair, that it would be unprecedented to bring a citizen, non-elected official into the process, and I'm not even sure if there's any statutory authority for such. That would be my concern. I 100% concur with the President that this council is the voice of the people, and the people are in a unique position every 4 years to remove the people if they don't deem them acting in the interest of the people. I think to add them to the process could create a legal quagmire that I've never seen before. In the legislative process where you are now directly involving a non-elected official, it's unprecedented.
I mean,
Yes.
if you read through the ordinance, you'll see that when a developer comes to the city and makes, you know, a proposal to the city, that there are public meetings and that the city for Gary CBA is involved in the process. We are involved already. So to be excluded at this point, where a crucial decision is going to be made about whether a project can go forward or not, seems kind of like the horse is already out of the barn. We're already at the table, and then when the decision comes to be made, you know, we're excluded from the table except to make comments after these two entities have made a decision. And it sounds rather undemocratic to me.
Madam Chair,
Yeah.
Attorney Williams, what would, and for the mayor as well, what would it look like for the common council and the mayor to have joint authority not to enter? What form would that take?
It would be a vote like any other matter brought before the council. The mayor would bring a recommendation that this project be exempt from the process. The council would have to support that by a majority vote of the council. The public would have an opportunity to address and make any demonstrations that they deem necessary. But there is no parallel to putting them at the actual table. I understand Ms. McCrady's statement, but that's totally different. They're only being brought to the table once the administration has deemed the project eligible. That's different than bringing them to the table when you're excluding the entire ordinance, that you're saying this ordinance will not apply to this group. A layperson, non-elected official, does not have the statutory authority to make that decision.
No, what we're saying is they would, what the language is saying is that even though this ordinance would apply to that developer, the council and administration alone would have the authority to say that it's not in the best interest of the city to apply the ordinance. It's not saying, you know, the administration has said that this ordinance, that this ordinance applies to this developer. It applies because of the language in the ordinance. What they're saying is they want to be able to exempt it
I
from
understand
application.
exactly what they're saying, and I understand exactly what I said. I'm saying that it would have to be an act of this body to exclude it from the process, and there is no statutory authority to allow a layperson to participate in that process.
And you asked about process.
Right.
And so, to your point, he has outlined the process, and that would not, to Ms. McCrady's point earlier, that doesn't mean it's a done deal. The administration brings it to this body to determine if they agree. Now, would there be conversation? I'm sure, but it's ultimately the decision is made in a public forum, and there are pros and cons that are raised. And I could easily envision a situation where the administration comes and says, I think this ought to be excluded, and the council, after hearing public input, determines that that should not be. And the administration could easily agree after hearing that input.
More importantly, even if the administration disagrees, it remains a part of the project because it said joint. So even if they disagree, the executive branch would have no remedy to overturn the decision of this body. It wouldn't have veto powers they would under the statutory authority, because the way this ordinance reads, there has to be a joint agreement.
Between the two.
So once you feel it, that's it.
Okay.
Madam Chair? Jim Nowacki of the 2nd District, and I think this ordinance is a response to what has been apparent to citizens for certainly as long as I've been in the city. We have these projects come through. There's a lot of promises issued. There's a lot of expectations that are heightened. And then we get things like the baseball deal, where it falls far short of any of the promises that were made. Or we have things like the paving in our city streets, or we see the project at IUN, or we see any number of projects, the airport, the sanitary district, the casinos, etc. And all of the promises that are made, none of them hold up. Not even to the letter, but not even in a general nature. When we signed an agreement with the unions, I remember 15 years ago, the promise was that the unions were going to make sure that blacks, Gary residents, etc., are going to be brought into the unions. And Gary signed an agreement that all city projects were going to be union projects. And I can attest under oath of blood, that has not happened in the city. So when we have efforts to have a community development agreement, it's not just so it's not just the expectation that there's going to be another agreement between the administration and the developers, but I think the idea is that citizens who have a real interest in those promises being coming to fruition, and not just a report from our compliance officer. That's just not enough. To have a compliance officer who comes and says, well, they don't need black residents, they don't need Gary residents because they did their best they can't find anyone to work. And I'm saying that's just not, it's my expectation was this was going to be something that was going to provide more assurances that the promises made are not just simply lost in all the legalese that is encompassed in this ordinance, but would have some practical, measurable, observable outcome. Thank you. So maybe if I'm wrong, I'll be corrected, but this just doesn't look like it's really, it looks like we've short-circuited the effort and the interest in it for something that sounds like the same old, same old. I wish that I could say something different. Thank you.
Yes, Ms. McCrady.
Thank you. Thank you. I was here the night the city council passed the ordinance to fund the baseball stadium. You couldn't get into the building that night. I don't know if anyone else was here. 100 people spoke that night against the baseball stadium. 3 people spoke for it. The council voted for it. Those 100 people that came down, I mean, people came down, they were at home watching the council meeting. They came down, they were so angry about what was going on. Okay? I'm just saying that that is a perfect example of what happens when an administration and a council decide that something is going to happen. And if people can comment and comment and comment all they want, but it doesn't make any difference. It doesn't make any difference if the administration and the council have decided that this project is or is not going to go forward. And we know that. That's just a reality. So what I'm saying is that we did not work all this time to have this ordinance short-circuited at the last minute by language that allows the administration and the council to make the decision with people in the audience giving window dressing to the outcome.
So I want to be clear.
Go ahead.
This is not a last minute provision. And it is certainly not intended or contemplated to short circuit a meaningful ordinance. It provides a safety valve. Now, I know that some people don't like it, but this came as a result of a thoughtful conversation with members of the council. So I'm done with it.
Okay. All right. 2019-67. An ordinance appropriating 2020 budgets for the operating expenses of grants, donations, special revenue funds,
I wanted to go over something different in the budget this time, if I may. I'd like to bring your attention to, I'd like to go through, I'd like to have each department come in and explain their actual budgets, but I wanted to explain something first that's very different in there. If you go through the first budget after the ordinances, I'm sorry.
thanks.
Okay, I'm sorry, are we ready?
Just a minute, please. Okay, we're ready.
Okay, so I just want to explain the change that I've made this year in the budgets, and I'm going to have each department explain their actual budgets to you, and you can ask them the questions that you need to. So if you go through the first budget belongs to our Madam Clerk, and on the third page of her budget, you will see the revenue estimates. I've asked each department to provide their revenues, so that way we're trying to have like, I would call it a balanced budget for each bus. So in this case, what you're going to see with Madam Clerk is just an example. She has document storage fees, and you'll see the 2018, the proposed 2019, since we don't have a full year of 2019. And then you're going to see what she's proposing for 2020. And then to have what she is proposing to spend balanced to her revenues, she actually has a cash reserve, in this case of $63,531. Those total $85,531, which matches her budget, her proposed budget for 2020. And I went through that a little quickly, but
Yeah, I don't see 85,000, I see,
because you're one page back. So you will see the proposed budget here. It's different. 92,000, I'm sorry, right, because she made an amendment. But if you look at, I'm sorry, yes, I do not see the page. But if you look at what she has there, what she's spending, flip to the revenue page, which should be 2 pages later, you'll see her proposed revenues agree for 2020 to what she's wanting to spend in 2020. So that, and there was questions on some of them. I thought it was a really good exercise to have thoughtful conversations of how each of these funds are going to be spending their money and what they're going to be spending them on. And I've asked them all to do that. And the courts are not included here, but the rest of the departments are included. What they anticipate where their revenues will be coming from.
So question, so Commissioner here is saying the budget is 92,000, right? And she proposed to spend 70,000?
No. Well, she has cash available, and then she's estimating what her revenues are going to be collected. So in this case, the cash and the estimated revenue coming in will balance what she's asking for in a budget. My understanding from having conversations with our clerk, she's not anticipating spending it all, but she wanted to have it budgeted and show how it counts.
Are you speaking for the clerk?
No.
I was going to say, I thought you were for the court. Yeah, I'm like, now the clerk is here.
Sorry. But that was just, and we just used our clerk's budget since hers was the first one to look at, to give you an idea of what changes was made.
Yeah, okay.
And having each of the departments explain where their money's coming from. So that way you can see it documented as part of the ordinance. The anticipated revenue, where it's coming from, and each one of those has it in there. Okay. So I would like each department then explain their individual budgets, but I just want to give you the overview change that
Employee type plus PS.
part-time. Okay. Yes, they're in the order that they're in here. All their
Can you pass me the clerk to talk to you about it? You want the clerk to talk to you about the budget?
Well, Madam Chair.
Yes.
And just a basic question, why, because we already passed the budget, so why are we doing this?
The budgets that you passed were tax-based budgets.
Tax-based.
Okay,
These
so
are,
this is-
these are non-reverting funds, grants, and stuff.
Right.
Thank you. And it says special revenue, it's all that.
Yes.
Yeah, this is much easier budget than the tax-based budget.
Are you guys okay? Because as I said, the clerk is here. If you wanted to ask her something, she is here. Okay. Straight, everybody? Okay, move on to the court. Okay, we're ready.
Hello, everyone. Hi. Jennifer Rose wasn't able to make it tonight, so she sent me, I'm here, with the Gary City Court.
Yes, sir.
Well, it looked like it's some slight changes, if you look at the 2020 from 2019, I believe it's $2 will change. And so basically, most of the funds we do collect is collected by the clerk, so those funds is really used to assist the court operations. And we just received a grant from the Department of Justice for drug court, so it should last for, I think, 3 years.
So how much was that grant for?
That grant, let me show you what it was. But I know it was a substantial amount. But I don't have that information on me.
I guess the question is, Madam Chair. The question is, I mean, the premise was that we would know where the special revenue funds came from. So now, you know, but except for the court, so I don't know.
Well, the funds will be collected by the court, I mean, from the court's office, so we collect the fines or fees or domestic violence, we do collect for that, we collect for probation. We have monitoring fees as well, court, so we do collect those, and we have receipts for those, and we return those.
But the other funds that are funding this budget are coming to the court's office, is that what you're saying? No.
Well, we only can fund what we actually collect, so.
Right. Okay. So you got domestic violence?
Yes, we have domestic violence.
Probation?
Probation.
And then you got that grant?
Drug court.
Drug court.
So I guess what comes on that, along your lines, you're not sending revenue, that's what you're really looking for, you're not
Yeah.
sending revenue. Like, the show, the
Right.
clerk, yeah, the clerk get a revenue, we don't see it for the
Okay.
court.
So we don't know how how this is funded.
Okay, well, I don't have that information, but if you want to request that from Judge Moore, you guys can just ask.
Yes, good.
What is do or die?
That's part of drug court. That's usually for the gentleman between the ages of 18 to 25.
So it's two. I'm seeing drug court and I'm seeing do or die. It's two separate ones. One says drug court and then this one says do or die.
It's a different document, but it's the same program.
Yes, it's the second chance, it's the second chance program, which is in two different,
It's a different category.
right.
Different group of
One is
guys.
for the high-risk gentleman, 18 to 25, 26 and up is for just adults. But it's targeted for substance abuse.
It's a great program. I've seen a lot of people lie. I've seen a lot of people lie.
Yes.
Glad to have it.
I don't have any questions. So anybody else have any questions? Because I don't have any. Okay. Thank you.
People won't.
What?
That should be the building commerce.
The building commons.
Dave?
Okay.
Yes.
Hi.
Have not done this before.
So what do you have? Tell me what you got.
Probably, I'm not even sure what you're asking me, to be honest with you. I have a budget in front of me that I partly understand. This is about rental registration program in the City of Gary Building Department. That position, the manager position or the operational position was previously contract position. That position's been empty for some time. So the program will now get someone in the next year on salary or full-time position, union position. And I think if You might not recall, but it was discussed earlier in the last month with the budget discussions in the full council. So the management of this operation should go better in the coming year, number one. Number two, I can't account for any of these numbers. I've been sitting here for a month. Yeah, month and a half. So how this worked in the past, I don't know.
Can someone come here that can explain this budget? This overview?
Yes. No, I'm good. Thank you. This is the rental registration ordinance that essentially provides for a fee to all registered apartments, and it really enhances the ability to both inspect and to regulate how tenants, more than anything, are treated in terms of the premises that they provide. We know that the state has somewhat limited our ability to really address it, but this still does provide a mechanism. We proactively let landlords know that their property should be registered. We also conduct inspections upon complaints by tenants, and that is all managed by the rental registration board.
Thank you, Mayor.
I'm sorry, I misunderstood your question. You're asking about the program, not the budget.
No, we ain't talking
No,
budget.
that's for
Not the program.
budget.
That I've seen on the third page, like in the clerks, you can see the amount of the revenue that comes in.
Right.
And
The
then,
actual revenue.
right,
Yeah,
and then we look
and the
at
proposed. It's here. Okay. It's straight.
Would you like to skip to one?
There he is.
Good evening.
Hi.
Mayor and citizens. How you all doing today?
Fine.
Good. And y'all waiting for me to present? Okay. Thank you. My department is 604, Information Technology, and the fund is 860. This fund comes from revenue for our IT work with the airport. As you know, we serve as their IT provider, and they pay for said support. That support is expected to bring in $42,000 in 2020. We expect to use those funds primarily to look at training for the IT department. We'd like to spend about $20,000 on training for our department. With all that's happening as far as technology is concerned, we do a lot of in-house training, but we have to go get specified training in specific topics and areas, and allow for our staff to look at potential certifications in their expertise. And so that's what we want to use part of that money for. Another part of the money is used to purchase items that we know we're going to need because of the technology upgrades that we're going to be going through. We work with 3 vendors and we usually go with PCM. They usually, as a rule, turn out to be the cheapest of the providers that we work with. PCM, Tech Micro, and along with CDW. So they're all there to give us quotes and whatnot. And it's anticipated that 10,000 of that income would go towards those items that we just need to function in the city. The other last capital expense is $5,400. We do know that we want to provide also some additional capability for the city to get trained in cybersecurity, plus secure ourselves a little bit better in our email. Since we're in the cloud, as far as our email service is concerned, there are now technologies that we look at the cloud email before it arrives to us and scan it in the cloud to see a potential threat that the vendor, Microsoft, is aware of, and then stop it, or at least warn us that this could be a potential threat, warn us as the administrators, and also warn the actual recipient of the email. So we look at that technology too. So those funds are basically being encumbered in that window of use.
Okay. Anybody got any questions?
So when you get this money from the airport for the services, is it like itemized, or is it flat fee, or how?
It's usually a flat fee. Part of it also that I forgot to mention is to pay for their cellular services. They do earmark that and they provide it, and that's broken out for that. Outside of that, it's the services that are rendered.
Because I noticed that it looks like it's like 3,000 less than last year, and that's why I wondered. I mean, the budget was.
No, we haven't received all of it this year, so we're expecting a couple more checks to come in. So that's why, if I'm reading, understanding your question, 38,500 is, we're still expecting to receive some revenue from.
Okay, I'm looking at the 42.
Yeah, 42 is expecting to, what we expect to receive, yes.
Anybody? Okay.
That's it. Thank you.
Law department, I just saw him.
He's always asked.
I get him. Law department.
Good evening. I'm Greg Thomas, Corporation Counsel for the Law Department. The Law Department doesn't generate a lot of income. We're cutting $40,000 from professional services budget out of our Fund 820, and cut out the money for refunds and awards, because we're not generating any income in that category. And so basically the law department's budget is being reduced by $45,000 for 2020.
And what is the miscellaneous revenue?
Where's that?
Turn the page.
Oh, turn the page, okay.
It's here.
It could be for, when we have FOIA requests, we charge people for.
It comes from the building.
Oh, I'm sorry, yeah, we have a contract with DHA, We do landlord eviction, and that's the revenue that comes from that. And it's usually 10,000.
Okay. Thank you.
Any questions? Okay, thank you.
Hi.
Good evening. For the Rainbow Art Shelter, we have the donation account for social services in the amount that we're proposing for the 2020 budget for $5,000 for restricted and unrestricted donations, and we utilize that for various things such as outreach, education, anything that some of our grants does not cover, such as carpet cleaning, holiday food, different things like that. Operating costs, sometimes we use it for also travel education. And that is all that we have for this year's budget.
Anybody? Okay. Thank you.
It's for outreach, but I wonder where it is.
Where does that money go? We don't. Outside of that.
Where it came from. Yeah.
Donations, yeah. You said that when you first said that.
I know, I didn't hear it.
Oh, okay.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Okay, the recycling department budget has been revised for the operational. I transferred 14,000 from line item 115-226, 311, and 363. The $14,000 will be added to line item 362 for repairs to equipment. The salary budget has no changes for the 2020 calendar year. And that concludes.
Any questions or concerns? You said, how much did you say for repairs to equipment?
I transferred $14,000 to repairs to equipment.
Okay.
I do have one question. How are we doing with recycling trucks? I understand for a minute we had a problem.
Yeah.
Because you guys been very efficient with recycling. But I just want to ask that question.
Unfortunately, I do still have 2 vehicles that are yet out of service, and then one dump truck that's out of service. So they are being repaired as we speak.
There are different vendors. One is in-house, and we get reports every day. A lot of the delay is due to the fact that these are older vehicles, so they have a delay on getting the parts.
Yes.
So inside your budget, is there any room in your budget where you can do rental trucks or anything to fill that gap and go before it can happen?
We could rent trucks. We've done it in the past, which would be more like a pickup truck. So those trucks could be utilized to collect bags. Yes.
If I could provide an update. If I could provide an update on that. So we tend to not want to do the pickup approach because you're only able to put a very limited number of bags in it, and then you got to come back to 900 Madison, empty out, then go back out, and that's just a waste. So Harlan is looking at, our vehicle maintenance superintendent, is looking at the possibility of leasing something like a garbage truck, which will allow them to be more effective. So he's checking prices and frankly to see if that option is out there right now. And as soon as he gets back to us, we may look into that.
I think that the latest report this morning was that we should have all of the trucks back and up in the next week. If that does not happen, then I think that
again, I just want to compliment you all on the
They do,
recycling.
they
that
do a
you've
great
done.
job.
Really do. I even seen some recycling, a vehicle on Saturday picking up the leaves, so I just want you to know that, but I didn't know. Okay, thank you. Thank you, man, for the help.
Yeah, even without enough equipment, they still do a good job.
Yes.
Okay, media, you've got media. I don't know. Huh? Yeah, you know what? I know.
Come on, Lord,
So, Madam Chair, members of the council, I'm going to present the media budget. First, you should know that the revenue comes from franchise fees. And ironically, that was something that the legislature threatened to take away a few years ago, but decided not to, so that's good for us. Because I think this is probably one of the most utilized departments in the city, because not only do we use them for the branches of government, the public uses them, and is able to present their programs through public access, and I think that's a good thing. You see the folks who are included, program technicians, production engineers. You have a communication citizens services assistant, and those are both part-time, as well as a citizen information specialist and a communications director. Those are full-time positions, and the media production specialist. A lot of the media team operates out of the council office. And in talking with the president, I know that it is his plan to move all of the media equipment back to this location once the renovations here are finished. It allows for us to keep up with our equipment, and it provides for accountability as well.
Questions? No?
I know, I believe one time here, this budget used to be the council.
Right.
I just want to know this for past history, how did it wind up being separated from the council?
Well, this is when it was with the council, these are grant budgets, this is grant budget. When it was with the council, it was not grant.
Right, well, I'm just asking in general about it.
Oh, okay, okay.
So maybe we'll talk offline.
Okay.
I'll be here for it.
The mayor's doing the Genesis, so I said when she was up here, but she's going to have
I'm going to be here.
Oh,
I'm going to be here until the end.
okay. EMS. Hi.
I'm Charlotte, the business manager for the fire department.
What's your name?
Charlotte.
Okay, hi.
Hi. This is my first time. Okay, so our EMS budget, the 224, we have a decrease for 2020, about $1.3 million, pretty much because 2019 we had that big lump sum of school money, the reimbursement that we get from Medicaid and Medicare that we got for like a period of maybe 5 years that we won't be getting. So we have to decrease our budget to reflect that. And then our other budgets, we have the 408 and the 709 and the 851. All of those are pretty much based off of the cash that we have in right now at the moment.
you say there was a decrease of 1.3? So how did you all absorb that? You start the budget at a big decrease?
Yes.
Yes.
I mean, we have to budget it as best we can in our operating,
What did you all go about? You said, what are you going about?
like, I'm trying to see where our biggest decrease, like our professional services account, our contractual maintenance.
Okay.
So if you take just your professional service, what would you paying out of your professional service?
Our professional services, we paid, I think some of that was contractors for things that we're doing with the stations. And that's where most of it went, for most of the outside contractors.
Because I know we do a lot of renovations to the state.
Right.
They only kept 50,000.
Well, I brought that up because I think that's important for people to understand and going forward. We start talking about what stations are not being renovated. This is one reason why, because they had a big vote last year and they had to make this big cut here. 1.3, that's a huge cut there. That's why I brought that up, had a discussion there. Thank you.
I just want a question. Do you see in the future where you guys may get another grant, similar to what you've had in the past, you know, a 3-4 year grant where you can actually financially be able to do some things moving forward? Is it possible? Are you all looking at some grants in the future?
Well, we recently had a grant for hiring, but not for equipment purchase. Now, are you referring to a grant or like this? This was a reimbursement, this money here. We are, but we don't set the rate, and they've gotten lower every year. This is a reimbursement through the Centers of Medicaid and Medicare. What they do is supplement in-state government ambulance services. So they give us what we actually incur, but they set the rate, and each year has gotten a little smaller. We haven't gotten the money yet so we won't know what's going to happen in 2020.
So you see that possibly they could continue to decrease like that?
Oh, absolutely, yes.
Okay, so you could possibly see even more cuts moving forward because of this, or not?
I wouldn't call them cuts. We make adjustments as we've been doing.
I mean, I don't mean to use the word cut, but I'm saying we don't have the revenue that affects the service that you.
Oh, absolutely. Affects how we spend.
Right.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much.
I just plan on looking for some grants.
Okay, you will?
I do.
Okay. We appreciate that. Thank you.
So all these paramedics get paid from this grant?
Yes.
Okay.
So we didn't make any cuts in the salary. Just the operating and how we spend.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you for your service.
But we have always paid the paramedics out of the full fund.
It's not a grant though, this is the money that.
What
they take in, right. I just didn't know we had that many.
Three numbers and so
Yeah.
long, I don't want to hear them again.
What?
224, I've been heard it so long.
Move right along. Sorry, Madam Chair.
Okay. Hi.
Good evening, Madam Chair, Councilman, how are you all doing? Good. I'm Kim Walker, I'm the Director of Administrative Services for Police Department. Deputy Chief is here in case you guys have any questions, but I'll just kind of go over this to start. 220, 262 as the forfeiture, which is the county funding that we receive in. It went down by $24,000. And it was cut down according to, when we went over the budget and we looked through everything, the services that, we still have a little bit of money left in the budget that we're working off of now that we are able to use. Okay, 220, asset forfeiture, 20
Asset forfeiture. Asset forfeiture.
You guys are looking at which portion, the revenue, investment, first one. Make sure you're in the same court.
Asset forfeiture is after the fire watch.
Yes, for your next one. So I'm actually looking at the very first page, which was.
Right.
Okay, so, but saying, 220, go ahead, I'm sorry.
Chair, did we just let the fire department get away? Because there's an uplift for the fire department, so I'm not sure that they.
They're not gone, are they?
Yes, I think they. It's too far. Okay, we got fire wash,
Yeah,
fire training, fire capital.
yeah.
You guys want to get that question coming up?
About 70, get too far. They have less.
Fire training, yeah, fire watch. Okay, you can go ahead.
Okay.
Come back.
So 220, this budget, there was not a budget set for the year 2019 because it was out of compliance with some things. So I had to reestablish the budget with help. So you'll see, that's why there's a big increase, a big decrease of $24,000 throughout the term from 19 to 20, for the proposed 20. So, excuse me, so I cut down on the office supplies because again, I went off a 3-year analysis, so just going from 17, 18, 19 to carry us over to 20. I just wanted to make sure that we didn't overcompensate for what we didn't have. So I just kind of cut down, and then when me removing these things, and Deputy Chief and myself removing these things after we spoke with the controller, we just kind of thought it made more sense to take away from the 220 budget and then as well. To take from the 220 budget and place more into the 101 general fund budget, so we didn't have so much everywhere, it's kind of spread out. So that's why it's a negative 24,000 here. And then when you flip over to the revenue estimate, you'll see that it matches up. So it's only at 31,000 for the budget and for the revenue portion. And then you guys have any questions about the first one?
So you do the law enforcement training?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
And so for 227,263, which is the next budget, this is the law enforcement training budget. This budget accounts for our travel and education. So like when the chiefs have to go to like conferences or the officers go to any kind of training, prisoner control training and seminar classes or something like that, if I were to go to training, this is where all that will come from. We did do some training last year. We have not done as much. So instead of that 80,000 that they had secured for 2019, I took off 30,000 and left it at 50,000 because we did not do as much traveling, but I did leave some wiggle room there in case we did decide to for the following year. And then when you go down to the leases, that's at 15, it was at $15,000 for 2019. Now the leasing, I took that down to 10,000, so it took off 5,000. I took that down. Right now, we just actually received some vehicles, some narcotics vehicles. And what this leasing is, because when I initially saw it, I was a bit confused, and you all may know, because you've been here for quite some time, but for the leasing, say for instance, if we need to lease or use a vehicle from Enterprise or narcotics division, that's something that we can use in this area to do that for a vehicle if we didn't have the vehicles. So now we have those narcotics vehicles, so we don't have to worry about using this. This is just there in case I need to do a transfer over to another line item within the series for like printing or something like that. And then that will go before Angie or Dana or whoever at that time. You go down to the rewards, amenities, and with the rewards, refunds and rewards. I took off $5,000 for that. That comes from, say for instance, if we get someone to come to the police department, we have the rules now when we contact the state. Someone comes into the police department and they decide they want to purchase, they want to get a gun permit. They come in, they give us the money order that they'll need. For instance, once we go through, because it's like different levels they go through for a gun permit. It comes to us, The chief secretary does her research on what she needs to do, then it goes down state. She sends over what she comes up with. They have the last say so, regardless of what we may push forward. So if they decide, no, we're not going to do that, and they've already paid $50 for a lifetime permit or something like that, they say, well, I'm just saying, for instance, $50 for a lifetime permit, they say, no, well, we're not going to approve it, then this is where that refund will come back for the portion that we receive back, but it will not be full portion, because according to state law, we do get to keep some of that. I mean, they don't get all of it back. Subscriptions and dues, this is something for subscription. Like we have a couple of magazines that come in, and we may get, and we rarely use this. That's why I dropped that down to 20. Took off 20,000 because we rarely use it. This is, again, is something, I just kind of left a little bit of wiggle room there if we run into an incident where we need to use current charges for something that we don't have. If we don't have other materials items set in the budget, then I can use it from there because you can go coincide the two. Machinery and equipment down at the very bottom, I took off 5,000, I left 5,000 there, just in case. We don't really do any work to the building. Public Works usually picks that up, but in case they don't have it, then we'll kind of step in some portion of that way, maybe financial help with the matches if need be. And then on the back of that is the labor portion. We can see it's at $105,000, but when you flip it over, it's matching with the 105. And then this shows our stream of income. I did a 3-year analysis, so I did 17, but I didn't put that on here, of course, because we had room for 20. So I did 17, 18, and 19. But I just placed 18, 19, and then 20 on here for what I thought that we would generate. And then it all comes down to the 105, the same as on the other sheet prior. You guys have any questions about that?
One question for you, Madam Chair. The fines and fees, what are those fines and fees?
Okay, so background checks, we know what those are. Those are when people come in for jumping background checks. Fines and fees, like with accident reports, when people come in and get accident reports done. Fines and fees, so like say for instance, we would get, I think it's like toll, is it toll fines? Got the sheet for fines and fees under?
Tolls and releases.
Okay, so the tolls and releases would be the fines and fees that would go under. So when people come in, they have to pay for toll release. Yeah, toll release, and that's what that would account for.
So what would your tickets be?
And tickets, that goes into fines as well. Yeah, fine, is that, because the word is
more money than
Tickets
that.
go
Yeah, tickets go to court.
Courts.
Yeah, tickets go to court.
Tickets don't go to the police
Yeah, tickets
department,
don't
those
go
are
to
paid through the court.
So you all don't receive any of those? No?
You don't get
That's paid through the courts.
No, nothing at all.
Very
So
small.
I guess that's what we need to see instead of the court revenue, that portion there. I would really like to know what those numbers look like.
It's a substantial difference if the ticket is written under the state statute as compared to if it's written under the city ordinance.
So the city ordinance, we
You get a larger percentage of the revenue.
Yeah.
And then moving to 254, which is the auction fund. That's a non-reverting fund for the vehicles that we have at the police department. Excuse me. Looking at the top of the other compensation, I've been speaking with, the controller. We removed the $218, longevity pay, the $300. Because we don't have a salary portion here that we don't pay a salary out of. We do pay, now let me get that corrected. Overtime pay, say for instance, when I was working at Vehicle Maintenance last year, we had an auction and it required me to work. They do pay you out of that. So like myself and 2 other finance members were paid from this portion. That's me, so you do get paid from that. But it didn't make sense to have a longevity pay and other compensation because it's not within a work week. So that was wrong. Then you go to PERF. We took that down again to only $1,200 because it was just those 3 people that were, so naturally we didn't need that grant out there, so I deducted that by $88.91. The FICA stayed for the $8,000. You get the percentages is what it's kind of broke down to. So So moving on to garage and motors. Initially, excuse me, for 19 it was at 15,000. And I will tell you this, when I was working again, just to reiterate, back over at vehicle maintenance, the vehicle maintenance department, 101-430, which is general fund, but department 430 is for vehicle maintenance, they were paying for the police department's parts for all their vehicles. So just speaking, that is why their budget may have went over a lot in requesting for it. I don't know, because I wasn't attending the meetings then, but I know they probably did a lot of amendments for their budget back then, but they are no longer covering the parts for the police department. So we've taken on the responsibility for paying for our own parts now. So you're going to see this amount here, and I can only do this amount here at 25,000 according to how it was set initially, but this will at some point, I'm certain, be amended. Yes, ma'am, it's going to be more, because as of right now, I'm at like $83,000 for parts. Okay. So moving, and that's repair parts. I'm sorry, I mixed up the two. The garage and motor is oils. So that's like oils, that's like belts, those are tires. And again, right now for tires, we're at like maybe 45,000. So you'll see an increase in that as well. The repair parts, like I said, I'm at about 80-some-odd thousand now, and this is about right. So the number that you see here for 72,500, we're right in that area, so that's about right. When you move down to professional services, I really didn't use professional services as much for this. I may have transferred out, I can't really recall, I don't want to tell mine. I may have transferred out a few dollars or so, but I really didn't use this. Like I went up $1,000 solely for printing, because we do a lot of printing. I do the tickets, yes ma'am, receipt books, tickets. I do a lot of the Scantron paper for the credit card machines, so you did see an increase. Well, that's why I left it at 5,000. I couldn't take that down. Then when it goes to contractual maintenance, that is towing, and that's at 31,000. And I know it's a big jump from where it was, because of right now we don't have a tow truck. You all know that for the police department. So we kind of, we have to set up throughout the city where we different vendors to pick up vehicles and so forth. So right now, we use Republic Frame and Axle a lot. We're at 31,000. We're at 31,000. I moved it to 31,000. Sorry, increased by 28. Repairs to equipment. Again, this is the vehicles. Like the vehicles get into a car accident, and we've had a lot of accidents this year. So I moved it up to 74, just basically off of where we are now, and I increased it by 48,000 from where it was. And then when you go down to the bottom, machinery equipment, it was at 4,500. I moved that to 5,000. Just in case, I didn't know if we don't use it, then actually we won't use it. And then that's at 234,918. And then when you flip it over for the revenue of the year for the revenue, the towing fees are here. You can see there are towing fees. For 19, we've collected so far in years and over $132,540 in towing fees. Yes, ma'am, that's correct. And then for the vehicle auction, we've drawn in, and this amount, we just actually had another auction. So I don't know, Angie, was this amount included with the new auction? I know that amount was like 26,140.
Not sure.
Okay.
I think we estimated it, so.
Okay. So the last auction we just had was about $26,000, and if that's not included, and you said maybe estimated, so that may be right. So for 19, so we're at, for 2020, we're at 234,918. Any questions about this one?
Confiscated cash,
Yes, ma'am. Okay. Confiscated cash is when he's done with me in a second.
Okay.
So for 17, confiscated cash, this budget, excuse me, and you guys know what this budget is for.
Right.
Okay. Yes, ma'am. So the current charges that we have in there, what I have in there now is about $8,800. So I just went up to rounded to 9,000, and then I took away the 96 because of course we had to make sure that it matched. So we're just at 9,000 for confiscated cash. And then we flip it over and all matches out the same. And then this is the last one. And then 725, which is donation fund. We've never had a budget set for the donation fund. So with that being said, when speaking with the chief and deputy chief, we thought that it would be best to create one because we do get donations from different outsources. So like churches, we do have a company that comes in and use our gun range. That's why we had to try and get some things done to the gun range so we wouldn't lose those people coming in. And they pay us about $16,000 a year, but I can only go off of what was given to me was turned over to me. Yes, ma'am. So I can only put in here this amount. So the total overall is $11,350 for 725, and then when you flip it over, it's matched. You can see that it's little. That's it. Any questions for anybody?
No.
Yes.
You've done good.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
You did good.
You said the firearm range, we received $16,000 from.
Well, I will say this. So how they do it is, and it's kind of tricky, I actually have to call them. I just received a payment for $8,000. So they pay it, it's not on they pay it like a quarterly, like every 3 months or 4 months, or how they arrange it. And sometimes it can be $4,000 when they send it in. Next time it can be $8,000. I think that's cheap. This is Pino's.
So the individuals from Homeland Security use a range, some railroad police departments, because everyone doesn't have a gun range. They pay a certain fee to use a range according to their processes. Government agencies have to pay quarterly or twice yearly. Some individuals pay once a month. We just started this earlier this year, so we didn't have a budget set for it. We do have received about $16,000 this year, but we needed about $20,000 in roof repairs to the facility out there. So it came in handy, but we can't spend out unless we have a budget. So each company pays according to their rules. Like I said, government agencies pay either quarterly or twice a year. Other companies pay once a month, and we had to have it in the donation fund. Also, some churches may donate for us to buy officers, whatever. We had Embassies of Christ donated us $1,000 last year, and we utilized that for officers, employees, family funeral expenses, or something like that. We have a discretion on.
Good job. All right. Excuse me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we go back to the fire department. Which ones did we miss? We missed some in the department, from the fire department. Okay.
So we have 408, 709.
Which ones did we?
Fire capital, fire training, and fire watch.
We didn't do those, so we need to do those.
Okay. So the fire capital budget, for 2020, we budgeted $167,728. And that's pretty much just based off of cash on hand. Budgeted to spend what we have. It's kind of hard to guesstimate what you're gonna bring in for that, so we just budgeted for cash on hand.
Okay.
And then the same thing with our fire training budget, it's $19,341. It was budgeted for cash on hand. And then the same for fire watch.
Am I missing something here on fire equipment where it has two supplies, we had 10,000 for garage and mold supplies, and then 20,000 in medical supplies. Then you come back and other supplies of 70,000. Okay, I see the other supplies, and then grand total.
Yeah.
That's it. Okay, we're good.
So when you say cash, you use the cash on hand, at what point, when are you saying cash on hand? I don't understand.
So at the time we did the budget, what we had deposited as of that date.
Okay. From like year to date?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Is that it for fire department? The last one is fire watch, we got that one. Okay. I think that's it, I think we got them all. Yeah, we're good. Okay, thank you. Genesis Center.
Good afternoon again. And I think we sent something around, we may not have those, but just as a point of information to the council, Deborah Delp is no longer at the Genesis Center. Robert Johnson is now in acting in capacity as director at the Genesis Center. So I did want you to know that she was unable to be here tonight, so I am presenting the budget. And I want to provide just a little context because there's been a lot of information in the media about the Genesis Center. When Victoria Wilson left 2 years ago, rather than having the board choose another director because of the internal audit process, we had uncovered some irregularities, and that was Roxanne Williams as the internal auditor. We thought that it would be best for someone who really had a much more direct tie with the mayor's office and someone that would be trustworthy and who would really adhere to some standards and guidelines we go over. And so we asked Deborah Delp to go over. And I knew that we had sort of moved away from having people serve a dual responsibility. But the reality was that Deborah just didn't go over. I went and started to look at some of the financial practices, started to look at some of the practices in terms of contracts, in terms of, whether something would be waived, and just began to create a structure that the employees could be comfortable with. There was a lot of, there was a real sense of the morale over at the Genesis Center among employees was not good. And so we worked very closely with the board, with the staff, to try to establish not only a standard of service to the public, but also a standard of operations within. And I believe that Deborah Delp was successful in doing that. After the internal audit uncovered the financial irregularities, we reported it to the State Board of Accounts. They then reported it to the federal government, and as a consequence, you saw 2 indictments come out, both agreed plea charges, and to our belief, that's the sum and substance of what was going on over there. And it's unfortunate because the good news was that you may recall that in 17 there was a subsidy to the Genesis Center, but in 18 there was not. In 19 there has been a request in this budget for subsidy, and that is largely because of the Genesis Center's cash flow. One of the things we've learned is that in December and January, the cash is flowing in June, July, and really through September with the all-class reunions, there's a flow. But in those other months, it does not flow in as quickly, but at the same time, the events need to be held, staff has to be paid. They have been very careful in the level of staffing in terms of the part-time. If there's not an event, people aren't scheduled. But even with that, there's also vending payments that have to be made. And so I'm pleased to report that we are all caught up on vendors. Gordon's, all the liquor vendors. Those of you who were over at the Genesis Center know that they've kept the liquor in our office. So it would not allow for any inventory slippage. But it, proved successful. And what we learned is that some of our liquor tabs were pretty large for the large events. And that did bring in the revenue. It's my expectation that with this subsidy and with this budget, that you won't see that type of need in 2020. And I say that because you see now there are a lot more concerts. I think there have been a record number of concerts in 2019. There's a New Year's Eve that's coming back. I want everybody to come out to the New Year's Eve party on December 31st because that's again how the Genesis Center brings revenue. And with there not being Radisson or Holiday Star, it really does create an opportunity for the Genesis Center. One of the concerns, and I believe we're supposed to get estimates today, was about the lights. We saw that last night at the Area Historical and Cultural Society's event. All the lights are not working, and so we're hoping to get those, at least get it started, if not finished by the end of the year. So that is, and the marquee as well. And we've gotten estimates for the marquee from time to time. Hopefully it will be one that we can get to fix it, but the lights are just a non-negotiable. You gotta have lights outside the house. And I guess the last thing I would say is that there have been some insurance compliance issues that they have worked through this year to make sure that, for instance, panic bars and things like that, exit signs are red, things like that. I want to place this in context. Every convention center that was built when the Genesis Center was built in the state has been Market Square Arena was the center that was built. That was gone 10 years ago. But, it's ours. It is, something that serves the public well, and I think that this investment is well.
So anybody got any questions or comments about Genesis Center? My concern has always been it's all we had. We didn't have anything else, even though it may not have been what some people thought it should be, or we wanted it to be. We didn't have anything else.
Well, I wouldn't say I understand it, but I think we're getting to the point where we want to really start looking at what we want to cut loose. And if it's not bringing in the revenue or even halfway where it should be, it might be something that we want to start eliminating going forward, because we do have a situation where we have money crisis in the city here, and we're trying to bring in more revenue, and we're trying to grow money money out and it's now coming back in. It's a situation that we have to really start looking at, really, you know, do we continue on with having this venue here, or do we have to close the doors and, you know, continue to make the rest of the city functional the best way we can?
Mr. Chair, Mr. President, it is for sale. I did want to, it is still for sale. We haven't changed that. We got some offers, they weren't reasonable offers, but it continues to be for sale.
I mean, I understand your position, but I want you to understand, I just, okay.
So, continue to sit where you sit.
In between them. Right there.
Okay.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
So is the 149,642, that's the amount that was generated? Or
That is yes, that is the amount that was generated.
Is generated. So when you say subsidy, what?
No, that's the subsidy. No, that's the amount of the subsidy.
That's the amount
Yes.
that you want. And so where would that come from?
It would come from casino revenue. Yes.
And is that, so you said in 2018 you didn't have to ask for it then?
We did not.
And this would be for 2020?
It would be for 2020. What you found was that actually in 19 we didn't ask for anything. What happened was that initially a lot of bills had gone unpaid. And so that is why it was not a request.
So what is the revenue that they're generating here? Do we have that?
The event fees.
It's all the best.
After the revenue? I mean, after the subsidy?
It's in operating.
$340,000 this year. Actually, a total of $352 with donations.
Anybody else about the Genesis Center? Okay. Anybody else got anything else about the Genesis Center? No? Okay, well, we'll move on to Market Park. Yeah, you know what?
Yes,
Okay.
All right. No changes as far as personnel. Well, I'm sorry, there was a change in personnel. The one thing that we could not do this year that had been done in years past, we needed assistance with the operation of our bulldozer to clear the boat launch. The boat launch is something that folks would use on a regular basis, coming on their jet skis, which was a significant amount of the revenue that is taken in. However, we don't have anybody who is dedicated to that role, and so we would have to contract people out to do it, and it can be a rather expensive thing to do on a regular basis. So the one thing that we decided to add in to this year's budget was 3 heavy machine equipment operators. And the reason we put 3 in is because we wanted to have backup options in the event that one person
was not available. Sometimes we need the launch cleared on a Saturday or a Sunday at the crack of dawn in order to get it open prior to the beach opening. We found out that sometimes, we try to use overtime hours to get people from the city to do it, and you can't make them do it if they don't want to do it. And so we thought that if we had 3 of those positions, that would cover us enough to where we could get somebody to clear the launch for us on a regular basis. So that was the one thing that we added to this year's budget. Usually we spend anywhere between $20,000 to $30,000 in clearing the boat launch. And that includes the cost of maintaining the bulldozer itself as well, which is really low.
Yeah. How often do you have to do that? Does that be done on a daily basis or?
It all depends on the weather, but usually at least 2 to 3 times a week. When there are storms that come in, we have a couple of storms a week. Usually right after the storm, you're going to have to clear the boat launch. If it's pretty good, pretty calm weather, you can maybe get away with once or twice a week.
Excuse me, Madam Chair. Is this year round or just saying during the summer months?
Just during the summer months.
So, I don't mean to, throw a curve, but we had a meeting earlier and we were dealing with the ordinances concerning basketball, portable basketball rims, and the question on the issue came up about the parks and, whether or not we'd have things like that for kids to play with. And while, I kind of understand the market situation and the boats and everything, but when are we going to invest back into the parks and the property?
Yeah, so it's something I've thought about recently, because the frustrating thing is it's like a cultural thing where almost all of our parks, except for maybe 2 or 3, have the backboards, but they've just been destroyed. There's no ways around it. They've just been destroyed and vandalized. Ideally you would go to a different system that would have metal backboards, and then those are extremely difficult to be destroyed. But unfortunately, the gold system we have is designed for the fiberglass, or the acrylic. I think it's either fiberglass or acrylic. And so you try to attach anything else to it, it can't support its weight. So if we wanted to go to something that would be more sturdy and last a lot longer, we would have to invest more money into putting, new gold systems out. One of the things I was looking at is trying to figure out if we could do maybe 2 to 4, backboards a year, because they're $600 each. And I think there's another $150 for shipping. So, it could take a strain on our budget, especially when those parks, really have revenue streams coming in to support them. So that's all coming out of general funds. But, we could slowly.
Madam Chair, and I'm sorry to interrupt you, but really what he's saying is we don't have the money, and I think that we should be tasked with finding the dollars to invest in the park backboards. We will have that available for you prior to the council meeting, because that is a valid.
Thank you very much, ma'am.
Particularly in light of that, you ought to have a place for kids.
And I don't mean to frustrate you, because I understand your situation trying to run a department. But as we said earlier, the commander, either we have something for our children or else we're going to continue to incarcerate. When I was at work this morning, and as I came out of one office, an elevator opened up, and there was an officer saying clear the way, and about 14 young men were being carried handcuffed into the criminal system. And a lot of them look like me, except none. And I don't want to see that continue.
I think along with what you're saying is we need to have a culture change, you know, in our communities and in our parks. In particular, in the communities where there are active block clubs and they are making an impact in the parks that are adjacent to them, we're seeing less acts of vandalism. So the more that people get involved, the less acts of vandalism that we'll see. So if we can continue on that trend, I think we'll definitely make an impact.
Yeah, and I know that's true because at one point, we had people right across the street from Charleston, from the where the backwoods were, and they kept a close eye, they watched. But when they started to move out, then, the backwoods started to get destroyed, and you're right, as long as we had somebody watching them, it did make a difference, even though we didn't have, the metal backwoods, they didn't destroy them, but as soon as those people moved out who didn't watch them all the time, then but I would like to see us be able to have them again, because I get asked often by young people in here, Councilwoman, when are we going to get the backboards up again? And I'm like, I don't know, because we don't have the funding right now to do it. And I hate that. I have to say that, but it's just the truth.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Madam Chair, I see Lake Street parking inside of Revenue. What about Marquette parking? I see the pay station, but I know the pay station just go around certain areas.
Yeah, it's not segregated. It's just the way that it's classified in the in RDS. It's just classified as Lake Street.
You're gonna give me some good news. Right.
So that's all parking?
That's all parking, except for the parking pay stations.
And is the parking also include like the jet skis and all that stuff? Is
Yes.
included now also too?
Yes.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
So if I'm reading this right, it says subsidy from casino, $9,299. Is that all you're asking for from the casino revenue?
No, that's 407.
Okay. All right.
And this is all just for Marquette subsidy?
Yes.
What we running short to need a subsidy of that size?
So, one of the things that Kamisha, who's the executive director, and I have done is we segregated the day-to-day operations of the park from the actual pavilion itself. On the pavilion itself, we're relatively fine. We generate enough to support the staff, the data operations. It's on the parking. While we're making strides as far as the revenue is concerned from the parking, it still takes a considerable amount of money and manpower to keep the beach going throughout the course of the year.
well, the increase was like, you know, from 18 down to go through.
Yeah, those numbers, the proposed total revenue is actually, it's, most of it is going up. When we did this about a month ago, these were the numbers we had, so it's going up. Except for the parking, I'm sorry.
Is that it? For Marquette? Okay, then we have Gleason.
Okay, no changes to Gleason and their staff. Maintained what we had for 2018. I'm sorry, 2019. So that is the same operation. And the operational stayed the same as well.
Madam Chairman. So what are your plans for us, the course for this year, for 2020?
Yeah, so as many of you all are aware, you know, the joint driver that ran through the pump house destroyed our irrigation system last year. Got back online in August, but by then, you know, most golfers had already gone to whatever prospective clubs they were going to. So we did open the front nine in mid-August, and we are preparing to open. We're making preparations to open the back nine up again, to repair it, get it up and going. We've cut it. Next spring we'll start seeding it, and hopefully, I know Don who was here, has said that there is still some grass that remains. There's some weed there as well, but you know, we're going to overseed it so we can get it back up and going, the back nine up and going. And so the other thing we have to do, you know, prior to the season starting, we have to let folks know that we're up and running. You know, because we just lost a lot of people last year when we had essentially like a small harm on that.
Is there some campaign you're going to use publicly to get the public aware?
Yes, our board is actually kind of mandated that we do so. So we've already started talking about what we're going to do to make sure we get the word out.
Madam Chair, that's going to have to be a conversation we have next year, meeting with the incoming administration about what's going to take place there, because you just can't have these rumors circulating. We're going to sell it, there's a potential buyer out there, and trying to get golfers to come in, and we're just not going to pump dollars into it to get that course together. So it takes about, correct me if I'm wrong, it takes about a year to get that course together for golfers. So it wouldn't make any sense to pump those type of dollars trying to get the ground ready, knowing that you have good intentions on repurposing something else. So we need to have a clear path what we're going to do for our golf course in the future also.
Mr. President, I agree with that, but we need to know as soon as possible, because there were people, if they know we're going to be open, we're going to be up and running, people want to have tournaments.
Yes.
You know, people want to have play on a regular basis. When you golf tournaments, all those things play a part in whether or not it's going to be successful. But even that being said, even if it gets to the point where it looks like it's a possibility it's being sold, it should be maintained, because people walk around that park. There's some paving that's needed in that particular area, and a lot of people feel safe knowing that there's golfers there, that there's activity, you know, and I think we owe that to our citizens to make sure that we look at it from that perspective, that it's maintained on a regular basis. I know the clubhouses have been running well, but when people are outside, that's another issue. So thank you.
And it was kind of neglected because Harrison was closed. So when you walk around back that way, because I walk around there, so when you walk around back that way, it seems like it's just been abandoned. but I saw a guy cutting the weeds and whatnot, trees and stuff on the fence, against the fence, towards the back end. But, you know, it looked pretty bad. You know, I understand the water inside, but, you know, a lot of people use the walking around, the track.
And that track has been paved then. Okay, thank you.
Okay, any more questions about Gleason? If not, we'll move on to Hudson County.
Okay. Hudson Campbell, the budget, personnel, stayed the same for this year, proposed for this year. So no changes to the personnel. And I think there was one on the operational side. Trimmed $6,000 from the supply line item on operations.
So you're still operating in the red in Hudson County as well?
No, we're in the black.
You're in the black?
Mm-hmm.
So you don't need the subsidy?
Wait a minute.
I'm gonna turn it away.
I would operate in the black.
We are not, the month is in the black, but cumulatively, we are not in the black.
It runs similar to what the man described in the Genesis Center. We go ebbs and flows where, you know, this is our busy season. So, hence why we're in the combination. But when the summer comes, people tend to shift their fitness activities to the outdoors.
Anybody else got any questions about Robert? From Nathan regarding parks?
Madam Chair, can I go back to Marquette and the big subsidy for the park? And, you know, I know that there's the Friends of Marquette Park and that group. I mean, can't they help to, or don't they help to, because I know they do a lot of work and landscaping around and everything. I mean, what more could we do as a community to lessen the impact on the budget?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked that question because they've been a godsend for us with the help of the day-to-day operations. They're usually helping with upgrades of like the playground equipment. There have been occasions where we've had some things that may need repair, and you know we have to go through our normal steps in order to get a contract out. Whereas Friends of Marquette, we usually kind of foot the bill for it. They help with the painting of the lifeguard stands. So, you know, countless hours of volunteer service for the Marquette statue, excuse me, the aquatorium. So they're always assisting usually with the beautification of the park itself. And so, yeah, that's not built into here, but they're there and they're always willing to assist.
But it's still going to take this much, $470,000 to be able to operate next year.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
One question to that, have you all looked at adding more shelters out there? Because I know that's a big issue out there as far as trying to go to the park and it's only a few shelters that you can use.
Right.
That will help with the traffic coming to the park and fees and things of that nature, plus getting more revenue for the shelters themselves.
Yeah, we've talked about the area that's across from where the shelters are. What we've got to do is because So we call them, I don't know what they really call them, we call them stink bugs.
That's what they are.
I don't know the technical term for it, so that's what we call them, but there's a huge problem with them in that area. And so one of the things that we've got to do is reach out to Sandy from EchoWam to see how we do it. I know Noah Glenn has taken on the task of removing them from the playground area without using any herbicides or anything, which is a long and tedious task to do so.
And Linda Fisher, I remember being out there, and they're like little sandburrs, and they're just.
It's really uncomfortable. It's really uncomfortable. So yeah, if we can relieve that issue, I think then we can open it up, because we had talked about, maybe possibly hosting like soccer games or things like that in that area.
So you all don't do any type of treatment to the lawn itself out there?
No, there's nothing done there. That part is actually contracted out. So the landscape and maintenance part is actually contracted out to a company. But one of the things we have to be careful about is because it's like a preservation area, a little south there. And we have to make sure that whatever we do doesn't have a negative effect on that preservation area. It's a little delicate. It's a little delicate.
That just sounds like that would take care of that situation there if it was treated.
Okay. I think that's all. George? I think you're next.
Good evening, everyone.
Tonight sometime.
Okay, the first is our local tobacco. Local tobacco.
Which
744 Fund 240. The local, that's the tobacco trust.
Yeah, that's what we want. Corners are.
Yeah, they kind of corner.
Oh, the corner, that's good. So, speaking on the Lake County corner, that is a budget that we have to pay $2.50 per death certificate. So that's funding that we have to pay to the county each year for our death certificates. Yeah. Yeah. So that's what it is. And each time they go up, which is done every 2 or 3 years, we just have to pay. Because eventually, I think the prices will be going up to about $3 or $4 more each year. Every so many years, they add a 25-cent tap to it, and it just goes up. Like now it's $2.25, maybe $2.50 per death certificate that we issue. That's all over the state.
So have you all did an increase in type of fees?
We have. The last one was American allowed us to do it, so we did. So it's one website that's going to do that again. But that's how we keep.
Yeah, that fee from the state, that's for training for all the corners throughout the state.
Yeah, training for the
State
corners.
certified.
Oh.
That's the last purpose of it. So, and based on what she's saying, that fee is gonna continue to increase. So we need to.
Those healthy families.
Seems like an odd place to take it from. But that's
That's what you do, you deal with that aspect of the state. Those are definitely the corner issue. Corner state.
Okay, Healthy Families is funding that we use for reagents for our lab and for the STD department. So we have to do blood, so that's what that's about. For Healthy Families. And then we also, if we need supplies, like medical supplies, chemical supplies, that's what that is, chemicals, the reagent is chemical. We'll work on that. And also if we could travel, like, if the STD department does extra funding if needed for traveling, because they do a lot of out-of-town traveling. So I think we have 5 counties now that we actually have to serve through our STD department. They added on, yeah, they have to travel, that's why they have to have cars.
So, inside the revenues,
This is just the operating budget.
so I'm inside the revenues here. I think we got 7,000.
On the healthy families?
Yes, healthy family, yes. For 2019, 7.
Well, those are like, if we get donations sometimes when the patients come in, they'll give funding. They might give a donation $5, $10. So we just put this into this healthy families in case we need it for travel, supplies, something.
So we have a big chunk for 2020.
Yes,
From
we
7 to 20, so how do we get to that number?
How do we get to it? Through the funding that we got, and we deposit it. When they, so this is your cash on hand? Well, it's not on hand. If they come in and say, we might have 10 people in one day and they might give me $10, or might
That's
give
a projection.
20, so that's just a projection.
No, what I'm asking is it's a nice projection.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
7,000 to 20,000.
Right.
So I
Well, you know what?
what's your
We
expectation?
picked, our clientele is picked up. From NSC, and I was told from one of the hospitals, I don't know if I should mention it, but we may be getting even more of a larger clientele because chlamydia, gonorrhea, syphilis is on the rise as usual. So we're looking at a lot of people.
Did we have the 5 counties last year?
We had 4. Okay, so that is another.
Okay, okay. So that was factored into the,
Which one is next?
local health maintenance.
Okay, the local health maintenance is for our 2 of our employees. One is for Healthy Homes, where Shelby goes out and do bed assessments. They have high numbers with our children. And the other one is for communicable diseases. We have to keep surveillance on that. And that's something that the state has picked up on because we've been having a lot of people with different ailments. And they want to check on pneumonia, the other one, measles, different communicable diseases that's on the rise, so we have to actually do assessment, talk to the doctor and parents.
We have a lot of RSV going on
Yeah,
right now, and
RSV.
also some cases of flu in the area.
I hadn't heard that since I was a kid. Yeah.
I've had a couple of kids come in with excuses saying flu.
I don't have the salary budget, but that's. We got that. Your next one is.
Did you do that? You did that person.
No, lead is the one we just received. That's the lead.
Tobacco next.
Tobacco. Tobacco.
Fund 240.
My 240 is, this is the lead. They have to give me that. I think we just, the local health, yeah, we just did that. That's why I have it, I'm sorry. The local health maintenance department. That's what we just did with surveillance.
Okay.
That's what they say, surveillance.
Okay.
This is the same. They're together, the local health and the tobacco. And the med is the one we just got. And we have one for, this is through Mayor Outreach for a health clinic. That is 8390 and it's fund 8390. You don't have that?
Go.
Yeah.
It's after the front.
It's after, okay. And this is our liaison person that actually does our outreach for our community. When they come in, they don't have insurance, or they need a doctor, or OB clinic, and Miriam pays for this program. So we do a lot of training on here, and we give away baby clothes, free baby clothes. It's a nice program. With this.
What's the violations under the rental fund?
The rental fund. I think, that's when Shelby does the inspection, and their violation, so we have to. And that's all I have. Were we going to mention the immunization? No. Okay.
All right. Ms. Hawkins, okay, so explain to me, to us, GHD rental fund, what exactly is that? We skipped over that, didn't we?
I don't think so, that's,
You just asked about that one.
Yeah, that's the one where we use for continuations for our staff that goes to, like Shelby, he's an inspector, so he has to go downstate for training. So we use that for education. And
what does the acronym GHD stand for?
I think that's what was given to that Gary Health Department. Rental fund.
What do the rental?
That's what it's been this way ever since, but that's what we use, that's what it's,
I think maybe it's the rental fund when a tenant calls in and the health department goes out and they find a violation.
Well, that's in any of them. It could be the restaurant, it could be the station. It's not
Okay.
just- they just-
I got you. Okay, rental and inspection didn't line up with me.
Yeah, this is the way it was.
Okay.
The last 13 years.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Merrill Outreach Health Center, who's that?
Miriam, that's the one we have for our social.
I know, I've heard of it, but I didn't know who.
Miriam,
When I
30
qualified.
Yeah, I've seen that. That's the one by NIPSCO, right?
Yeah, same building.
You know what?
Heard that.
I'm telling
One more to go?
One more.
Okay, oh, we got that. Okay. We're ready for you, dear. No, you're not.
Good evening, everyone. Councilman.
Hi.
Well, as you know, the Gary Human Relations Commission is operating on four different funds. It has 5 funds, but 2 of them are funded, and then we distribute the money. Okay, so I'm going to begin with the EEOC fund, which is Fund 204. There's been no salary increases, and the only decrease there was in travel and education. So the funds that came in from our case processing matches what we used in that fund for salaries, travel, and education. If there are any questions, I'll go to the next fund. Okay, this is Fund 514 CDBG. Again, no salary increases. Office supplies did decrease. Just found that we are finding more ways of using what we have. There was an increase in professional services and travel and education, and that fund is also meeting what came in for that fund. You'll see on the next pages. We're going to use the same amount that we were given. I'm going to go on now to the Fair Housing Fund. Again, no salary increases. Came down from office supplies, also decreased travel and education to meet the amount that came in as well. I'm going to move on now to the donation fund 712. That is just the remaining amount of money from the 50th anniversary that we had. It's now $838. And the FAP fund, which is the Training and Projects Fund, we placed that money in other compensation and also some money in office supplies and travel and education. And that is just money that we receive to do special projects and trainings from. And that is it.
That's it, you guys.
All right.
Thank you. Now we're gonna do 68 and 72 together. Right?
That might help a little bit.
We'll come back to 69, but we want to do 68 and 72 together, I'm told. She said she wasn't going.
She's gonna last too long. Yeah. My last committee.
So these two ordinances are identical. The difference is one involves the Indiana Bond Bank and one involves the Hammond Bond Bank. They are TAWs for 2020. We are doing them as in anticipation that the next administration will need TAWs for cash flow. The difference, I think, in these TAWs is that they will be able to be repaid in the same year as long as there is an adherence to a financial plan that watches the spending as the year continues. One is the Hammond Bond Bank, as I said, one is the Indiana Bond Bank. We put them both forth because we are currently negotiating with them to get the best rate. It is standard TAW language, and that's tax anticipation.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
So, Mayor, we got two entities that
Yes.
could possibly be getting the best rate for, which gives us options.
Yes,
That's
that's
great.
essentially what this is.
All right.
Could it be one or the other?
Yes, it wouldn't be both. Yes, so one would be withdrawn, which would shorten the council meeting.
Madam Chair,
Yeah.
you would know about the council meeting.
We should have a sense, and Curtis would have been here to give us an update on the state of the negotiations. His father had surgery today.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay. So 69.
So before before I get into the details of 69, I would like to invite Sean Gardner to step forward. Sean Gardner is one of the administrators of the 1150 project, and I want to just apologize to him because I should have asked that this to be taken out of order. He's driven up from Indianapolis, but what I will say as an introduction to him, the 1150 project is a technology project, technology training project. I sent a copy to everyone in terms of how that would in fact work with the city of Gary. They received $1 million from Facebook. They were given an option by, actually ID got the money from Facebook.
Yes, ma'am.
And they were given an option of 4 places to deploy $250,000. They deployed $250 to Fishers, $250 to Indianapolis, $250 to Fort Wayne, and the last $250 is being proposed to Gary. Is that?
It's pretty close.
That's pretty close.
Yes, ma'am.
And, but the 250 requires a match. And currently, we are suggesting that 125,000 of the match would come from the city. The other part of the match would come from a combination of Legacy, NIPSCO, the Indiana American Water is not in it, AT&T, and Work One, because it is a training program, 13-week training program that would get people trained in coding. They would then, after the 13 weeks, be placed by the organization. There is a portion that the participant pays, but they don't have to pay that money back unless they have a job that is at a certain income level. And so this is my introduction, rather than continuing to just do what I've been told. Let you hear from Sean Gardner.
Ma'am, thank you so much for leading the initiative here, and thank you, Madam Chair and Council, for allowing me to come up here and share a little bit what we're trying to do at 1150 Academy. And as the mayor alluded to, Facebook granted $1 million to IEDC. IEDC then turned to 1150 Academy and said, help us take what you've done in Indianapolis and spread that around the state. What we've been able to do over the last 5 years is develop a 13-week immersive training program in software development. So those are things like JavaScript, .NET, Python, all those languages that work in the background to make our smartphones and our computers operate and function. And we've been able to really see some significant life change for individuals who've come to the program. You know, I spent 23 years in the military, and I used to always say the military was the greatest social economic platter I'd ever seen. A farm boy from southern Indiana, you know, his whole life changed because I joined the military. And when I retired after 23 years, I saw that same type of value in 1150 Academy. You can take people from all walks of life and all different backgrounds and train them in 12 to 13 weeks in this IT language that allows them to get a job with average starting salaries around $50,000 a year. So we're excited about what we're doing and what we're trying to do around the state to take this recipe that we've developed and have the same type of impacts in communities around the state. And I think Gary is absolutely primed for that opportunity. As I look where you sit and we drove around today, I'm just excited of where things are headed here and excited about what 1150 Academy can help do to train that next generation of Gary residents, to bring those tech jobs into the area. And we really train career launchers, those folks with high school degrees who a four-year degree might not necessarily suit their desires or their needs in life. They might need to spend 12 weeks, get the education they need and get into the workforce as soon as possible. We have career changers, those folks who I've been, working in construction and now my back hurts and hard to lift some heavy things and I need to do something that I can use my brain and not my body. And then we have those career enhancers, those folks who've been in the IT sector in the past and say, well, my knowledge is a little old, I need to get it, more updated and ready for the current and the future IT workforce. So those are really the folks we focus on, and I think here at Gary, really focusing on those standout high school students in your school system who are graduating, looking for that next opportunity. We can help provide that. The mayor alluded to the funding, which Indiana Economic Development Corporation has been very generous in, offering $250,000 to bring this to Gary, if we can find a match within the community to help do that. And what that money's set aside for is to help pay the tuition for the academy. So the great thing is that once they find a job making over $30,000 a year, they'll never pay more than 5% of their paycheck back to repay the loan, no fees, no interest. So don't find a job, you don't pay it back. But once you do find a job, we ask you to pay that money back so that you can help the next person who comes along take money from the account and keep paying it forward. So that's really the goal and the initiative of this funding and the matching money we're looking for. So I covered a lot in a short amount of time, but Mary did a great job of rolling it out. And I'm here for any questions or comments or interest in what we're trying to do. So we are excited to be looking at Gary as that opportunity.
And just a point, that 125 would only be spent if we were able to get the other portion of that 125 to equal the match. And the new Goodwill Excel Center is already offered to house folks. So that would be a great utilization for that.
So we would bring the instructors, we'd bring the curriculum, we would help do the marketing and the recruiting and the assessment, and then help everyone get into what they call income share agreement, that then they can be set up, get the training they need now, and then pay for it once they do land the job.
So the training would happen here?
Yes, ma'am. So we're kind of going to pick up exactly what we do in Indy and plant one right here in Gary.
We've also, at the initial meeting that we held, and I have to apologize because normally the president knows that I always drag him. Well, I should say drag him, but he's always invited, but I omitted him. But it was a representative from Goodwill, NIPSCO, Legacy, WorkOne, and they had an opportunity to hear the presentation and, get an understanding of the economy. And so we've since been talking, there is an interest, it's just a matter of getting them to the good houses.
And one thing I did, we have a career services placement program built into the academy. So once we train people, we have people on staff who are out working in the local economy. Where are those tech jobs? What's the tech languages that people need to learn? So we don't train people and they go somewhere else. We are training people and actively searching, looking, and developing employment opportunities here locally.
And I should tell you that Mayor-elect Prince did attend that meeting as well, along with Shalita Miller. Shalita Starks, I'm sorry, who was with him there.
What does 1150, where did you get that name?
That name, this originally, our founder, Scott Jones, that if you studied your tech history, was instrumental in starting voicemail back in the 1980s and has been a serial entrepreneur in the tech space for quite some time. Actually started the academy as residence, and the address of the residence was 1150 something Drive, and that is how it came up with the name. I quickly outgrew Scott's house. We moved into Launch Fishers, and now putting a headquarters downtown Indianapolis. So.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
I wanted to ask, how much does the 13-week cost potentially?
It is expensive, and hence why it is $13,500 for the training. And I know everybody has a major sticker shock when they hear that. But if you look at, in 12 weeks, we have average starting salaries equivalent to IU and Purdue, which is 4 years outside the workforce, working to get the education you need to land that job. We're getting people into jobs much quicker, much sooner, and it's focused completely on software development. So, you know, we're not going to be focused in life skills and interview skills and those things that you need to be successful. So you're learning the coding at the same time you're having a workshop every Friday that talks about how do you do a tech interview, how do you do your LinkedIn profile, how do you do a resume, what do you wear to an interview, all those types of things that set people up for success. So that when they do show up to the job, they are the standout candidate for that opportunity. So yes, it is expensive, but when you look at the price of a 4-year degree with the same starting salary, we like to think we're a pretty good bargain. It's just that initial sticker shock. We have been very effective working with the state and Next Level Jobs as well, who offer a $5,000 scholarship from the state to help offset that cost. So if you take the 13.5, pair that with the $5,000 state grants, we're getting into a price tag that's very doable and very easily paid, you know, for folks to pay back once they land that first opportunity.
Is there a way of where would we find out what kind of success rate you have with placing individuals?
In 2018, and those numbers are quickly coming to an end, but in 2018 first quarter, I can confidently say we had a 80% placement rate and a 90% graduation rate. So those numbers obviously flex and flow as, you know, as different classes have different abilities and cohorts have their own personalities, if you will. But at that point in time, that's been our highest success mark, and that's obviously going to forever be our goal once we've set that benchmark.
And do you track sustained employment as well?
We're actually audited by a third party, actually from Chicago, called CER, the Council for Integrity and Results Reporting, and they're a third party who actually tracks our students. At every quarter we have to say, okay, within 6 months this student was placed in a job, they remained in that job for 1 year, 2 year, and I think at the 3-year mark we stopped tracking them. So I can get you the latest numbers if you need, but those are the numbers that we had at the start of 18. So again, I think, you know, we're excited about the opportunity and thankful for IEDC of allowing us to spread this opportunity around the state. Ma'am, any?
I think that's everything. Is that everything?
Charlie, did I miss anything? Charlie Hilton is here. Charlie, did I miss anything that I should have covered?
And I will say that, you know, as one of our biggest advocates and cheerleaders, Charlie, who many of you know to be one of the city's lobbyists, was the person that said that you have to bring this program here.
Oh, thank you. Yeah.
So thank you.
Thank you. Yes, sir. All right, it's not my meeting, but there's
Okay.
I was going to ask an aggregate number of the individuals who've completed your course.
We're at about 500 students at the end of this year, we'll have 500 graduates.
500 students this year?
Graduate, in the 5 years of the academy, we'll have had 500 graduates, and about 2/3 of those we've put through in the last year. So we've really discovered what that secret sauce is, what the methods are, what students really need to be successful in the program, continue to fine tune that, and now we've got it to a place where we can confidently, market to, recruit, and push students through the program.
So for a total 500 students for the history of your institute?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
What's your age requirement?
We have had 17-year-old students come through the program who took a job making, this is one of our biggest success stories, and I will say this is an outlier. 17 years old, came through the program, got a job with a very large insurance company that you probably see advertised on TV quite a bit, making $70,000 a year. That is an outlier. We've had single mom who drove from Lafayette, Indiana to Fishers for 12 weeks straight to be part of the program because she just wanted to do something better for her and her daughter. And 2/3 of the way through the program, she came to us and says, I got to drop out. Why? You're doing great. She says, I can't pay my rent. So we're like, here's your rent money. You are too good at this.
Wow.
So, kind of get choked up thinking about it, but 12 weeks from start, she went from waiting tables and working at gas stations. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but the opportunity that she could provide for her and her daughter, she has our highest starting salary of $82,500. So it's, again, those are the outliers, but it's those types of success stories that motivate us every day to go, now this is worth, getting up every day and finding ways to help better people's lives. And on the other end, you've got folks who, they're starting at $40,000, but on the aggregate, we're in that $51,000 to $54,000 starting salary, kind of depending on seasonality of hires. So thank you so much for the time, just to share what we're trying to do and the positive impact that 1150 Academy is trying to have around the state of Indiana.
Thanks to both of you.
Yeah, appreciate it. We're sitting patiently through our meeting.
No, it's well worth it. I need stories.
So, in addition to the 1150, you have a reiteration of some of the subsidies, Marquette Park, Gleason, Hudson Campbell, redevelopment tax base, Genesis Center full-time staff, Genesis Center operating, and the baseball maintenance fund, because we are responsible for maintaining the stadium. I wanted these numbers to be itemized because the original, I think the original ordinance said it was just the mayor's donation fund. Yes. And I just could have written Mr. Nowacki's comments for me. So we have a detailed list of all of the folks, and as you can see, we have been very consistent with these donations to folks who have either come before this body or come to the mayor's office. I think the only outlier, and that is because they are on the eve of a $1 million capital campaign, is the YWCA. And if you've been in there, you would see the need. It's a 20-year-old building. It still serves the community well, but it is in desperate need of repairs. And I should say 50,000 of this is for the U.S. Census project, and that is, all of that will not be spent this year. A portion will be spent this year, but the lion's share will be spent next year to really make sure that we have an accurate and complete count in April of 2020. It is critical to our ability to make sure that we get an adequate amount of funding for our citizens, but also that we provide the best count, because as you know, we came only 400 people short of Hammond last year. and that caused us a place on the Northwest Indiana Economic Development District. It also caused us positions on other governmental entities, and if it's possible, I'd like for the city to have those positions back, and the next administration to get the advantage of it.
Is that it? That's it? Okay, thank you very much.
I think 71 is at the yeah, so that's mine as well. The local development agreement, this is what we would call a Scrivener's correction. Nikel Allen was left on as a signatory, and Rodney. No, not Rodney. So Rodney from the old Majestic was put on there instead of John Keeler. But we're just correcting the names so that when it's presented to the Gaming Commission next week, it is totally accurate. So that's the only difference.
Thank you. Okay, that's it. This meeting is adjourned. Thank you.